Cyrus Caldwell woke up to the soft hum of his personal time chamber, the ambient lights casting a warm glow across the room. The date was April 12, 2127, and he was in Paris, a city he had visited countless times on his temporal excursions. Yet, today felt different. The usual vibrant energy of the city seemed subdued, as if the entire timeline was holding its breath. He stretched, feeling the slight stiffness in his muscles from the previous night's experiments. Time travel was no easy feat, even for someone as seasoned as Cyrus. His room was minimalist, furnished with the essentials and a few personal mementos from his journeys. A holographic map of Paris hovered in one corner, pinpointing various historical events he had observed over the years. Cyrus glanced at his wrist device, a sleek gadget that monitored temporal stability and provided real-time updates on his surroundings. Everything appeared normal, or so it should. But there was an underlying tension in the air, an intangible feeling that something was about to shift. He decided to start his day with a routine visit to his favorite café, Le Petit Croissant. The café had been a constant in his travels, a familiar spot where he could blend in and observe without drawing attention. As he stepped out onto the cobblestone street, the crisp morning air greeted him, carrying the scent of freshly baked bread and blooming flowers. Paris was alive with activity. Street vendors set up their stalls, artists painted vibrant murals, and the chatter of locals filled the air. Yet, amidst the hustle and bustle, Cyrus couldn't shake the feeling that he was trapped in a loop. He had been here many times before, each visit meticulously recorded in his temporal logs. But today, something felt off. He approached the café, the sign swaying gently in the breeze. The familiar sound of espresso machines and the clinking of cups reached his ears. Inside, patrons chatted over their morning coffee, unaware of the time traveler among them. Cyrus took his usual seat by the window, ordering a croissant and a cappuccino. The waiter, a young man with a perpetual smile, handed him the tray. As Cyrus reached for the croissant, a thought nagged at him. What if today was the day to change something? It was a simple impulse, the desire to make a different choice in an otherwise predetermined sequence. He had always adhered to the guidelines set by the Temporal Integrity Council, avoiding any actions that could disrupt the timeline. But lately, the endless repetitions were wearing on him. With a mix of curiosity and defiance, Cyrus decided to act. Instead of picking up the croissant, he reached for the baguette, a slight deviation, but significant enough to test the boundaries. He took a deliberate bite, savoring the crisp crust and soft interior. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, a sudden darkness enveloped him, and the world seemed to shudder. When the light returned, Cyrus found himself back at the café, the same croissant in front of him. He blinked, disoriented. Not again, he muttered, frustration evident in his voice. He glanced around, noticing subtle differences each time the loop reset. The barista's uniform had a slightly different pattern, a detail he hadn't seen before. Determined to break free, Cyrus began experimenting. If changing a minor detail like his breakfast choice led to a reset, what about more significant actions? He decided to challenge fate itself. Instead of eating the croissant or the baguette, he would provoke a reaction. He took a deep breath, stood up abruptly, and shouted at the barista, causing a commotion that would surely alter the course of events. As his voice echoed through the café, time seemed to warp. The room blurred, colors bleeding into one another before snapping back to the familiar scene. Cyrus found himself once again at his seat, untouched croissant in hand. The reset was swift and unrelenting. Puzzled and increasingly frustrated, he realized that each attempt to deviate was met with an immediate correction. The timeline was resisting his efforts to change it. It was as if an invisible force was ensuring that history remained unaltered, no matter how hard he tried to bend it. Days turned into weeks, or so it felt within the endless loop. Cyrus meticulously documented each iteration, noting the small variations and the consistent resets. His personal logs became a labyrinth of repeated events, each entry leading back to the same starting point. The temporal chamber, his sanctuary, now felt like a cage, trapping him in an unending cycle. Desperate for answers, Cyrus decided to seek out Amelia Duval, a renowned physicist specializing in temporal anomalies. Amelia was known for her groundbreaking research on time loops and her ability to perceive patterns within the chaos of shifting timelines. If anyone could help him understand what was happening, it was her. He tracked Amelia to her laboratory, a state-of-the-art facility nestled in the heart of Paris. The building was a marvel of modern engineering, with glass walls offering panoramic views of the city. Cyrus stepped inside, the air buzzing with the hum of advanced machinery and the scent of antiseptic. Amelia was hunched over a holographic display, her sharp eyes scanning data streams and complex equations. She looked up as Cyrus approached, her expression one of mild annoyance tempered with curiosity. "Sorry, I don't have time for this." Literally, she replied without looking away from her work. Cyrus took a deep breath, trying to explain his predicament succinctly. "Amelia, I need your help. I'm stuck in a time loop. Every time I try to change something, the timeline resets." Amelia finally turned to face him, her eyes narrowing thoughtfully. "A time loop, you say? That's highly unusual. What have you tried so far?" He recounted his experiences, the repeated resets, and his failed attempts to alter events. Amelia listened intently, occasionally interjecting with questions that probed deeper into the mechanics of his situation. After what felt like an eternity, she leaned back in her chair, rubbing her temples. If the timeline is actively resisting changes, it suggests a self-repair mechanism at play. The universe might be enforcing its own integrity to maintain a stable history. Cyrus felt a flicker of hope. Is there a way to bypass it? To break free from the loop? Amelia shook her head. Not easily. Time is a delicate fabric. Any significant alteration can have unpredictable consequences. The Temporal Integrity Council strictly prohibits unauthorized changes for that very reason. But what if the loop is more than just a simple reset? Cyrus pressed. What if it's a form of punishment or a safeguard designed to prevent interference? Amelia pondered for a moment before responding. It's possible. If the loop is tied to a larger temporal protocol, breaking free might require more than just small deviations. You might need to understand the underlying structure of the repair mechanism. Cyrus sighed, feeling the weight of his predicament. I thought time travel was about exploration and observation, not being stuck in an endless cycle. Amelia offered a sympathetic smile. Time travel comes with its own set of challenges. Sometimes, the universe has a way of reminding us that some things are meant to stay unchanged. But don't lose hope yet. Let's analyze the data and see if we can find a pattern or a weak point in the loop. Together, they delved into the complexities of the temporal resets. Amelia's expertise complemented Cyrus's first-hand experiences, and slowly, they began to piece together the puzzle. The resets were not entirely random, there was a rhythm to them, a hidden order that hinted at an overarching design. As days turned into nights within the loop, Cyrus and Amelia worked tirelessly, their collaboration bridging the gap between theoretical physics and practical time travel. They developed simulations, ran countless scenarios, and tested hypotheses that pushed the boundaries of their understanding. One evening, as the golden hues of sunset bathed the laboratory, Amelia made a breakthrough. "Cyrus, look at this," she called out, pointing to a series of overlapping timelines on the holographic display. "There's a pattern here, a temporal signature that suggests the presence of a higher-order control system. It's like the universe has its own checks and balances to maintain historical integrity." Cyrus examined the data, his mind racing to comprehend the implications. So, the resets aren't just random attempts to correct the timeline. They're part of a sophisticated mechanism designed to preserve the course of history. Amelia nodded. Exactly. It's as if time itself is self-regulating, preventing any significant deviations from the established path. This repair protocol ensures that the timeline remains stable, no matter how many attempts are made to alter it. Frustration bubbled within Cyrus. But why me? Why am I the one stuck in this loop? Amelia considered the question carefully. Perhaps because you represent a variable in the system. Time might be treating your presence as an anomaly that needs to be corrected. Or maybe your attempts to change history have triggered a more intense response from the repair mechanism. Cyrus leaned back, his mind racing. If time is actively enforcing its integrity, then any attempts to deviate will result in a reset. How do we break free? Amelia tapped her fingers thoughtfully. We need to find a way to work within the system's rules rather than against them. Maybe there's a loophole or a specific event that, when altered, won't trigger the repair protocol. He pondered her words, feeling a glimmer of hope amidst the despair. Do you think it's possible to find such an event? Something significant enough to allow me to change the timeline without causing a reset? Amelia's eyes sparkled with determination. It's a possibility worth exploring. We'll need to analyze historical data, identify key nodes, and determine which events have the most flexibility for alteration without triggering the repair mechanism. As the days continued to loop, Cyrus and Amelia delved deeper into their research. They mapped out pivotal moments in history, identifying junctures where small changes could have ripple effects without destabilizing the entire timeline. It was a delicate balance, requiring precision and an intimate understanding of temporal dynamics. One night, after weeks of exhaustive study, Amelia presented her findings. Cyrus, I think we've found a potential breakthrough. There's an event, seemingly insignificant on the surface, that could be altered without activating the repair protocol. It's a minor interaction between two individuals, something that wouldn't have far-reaching consequences. Cyrus leaned forward, eyes alight with anticipation. What is it? Amelia pointed to a specific date and location on the holographic map. It's a meeting between a young woman named Elise and a local artist in Paris, 1985. Changing the outcome of their interaction might allow us to introduce a controlled alteration without triggering a full reset. Cyrus studied the information, weighing the risks and benefits. If we can alter this event, it might provide the necessary deviation to break free from the loop. But we need to ensure that the change is subtle enough to avoid detection by the repair mechanism. Amelia nodded. Exactly. We'll need to approach this with caution. Any misstep could result in another reset, potentially prolonging your entrapment. Cyrus took a deep breath, steeling himself for what lay ahead. All right. Let's do it. They devised a plan to target the specific moment in 1985, ensuring that Cyrus's intervention would be minimal yet impactful. Using his time chamber, Cyrus prepared for the temporal jump, double-checking every detail to minimize deviations. As he initiated the sequence, the familiar sensation of disorientation washed over him. The world around him blurred, colors blending into a vortex of light and sound. Moments later, he found himself standing in a quiet Parisian café, the date and location aligning perfectly with the targeted event. Elise was seated at a corner table, her sketchbook open before her. The artist, a middle-aged man named Henri, was engrossed in his work, oblivious to the time traveler's presence. Cyrus approached cautiously, aware of the fine line he needed to tread. Taking a seat at an adjacent table, he observed the interaction between Elise and Henri. She was discussing her art, seeking feedback on her latest sketches. Cyrus decided to intervene subtly, offering a piece of advice that would influence Elise's path without causing significant disruptions. Your work has potential, Elise. Have you considered exploring different mediums? It might add depth to your creations, he suggested, keeping his tone casual. Elise looked up, surprise evident in her eyes. Thank you, Cyrus. That's a great idea. I've been hesitant to try something new, but perhaps it's time to take the leap. Henri nodded approvingly. Diversity in mediums can truly elevate your art. Don't be afraid to experiment. With the interaction complete, Cyrus felt a sense of accomplishment. He had made a minor yet meaningful change, aligning with their plan to alter history without triggering the repair mechanism. He prepared to return to his original timeline, hoping that this deviation would be enough to break free from the loop. As the temporal sequence initiated, Cyrus felt the familiar pull of time shifting around him. But this time, something felt different. The process was smoother, less turbulent. Moments later, he found himself back in his time chamber, the date now March 15, 2127, a few weeks prior to his initial entrapment. He checked his logs, noticing a change in the timeline. The event involving Elise and Henri had indeed been altered, leading to subtle shifts in the broader historical narrative. For the first time, the repair mechanism did not trigger a reset. Cyrus felt a surge of hope, realizing that their plan had worked, yet, the relief was short-lived. As he began to acclimate to the altered timeline, he noticed discrepancies in his surroundings. Minor details had changed: advertisements, street layouts, even the conversations of passers-by. It was as if the universe was adjusting to accommodate the new deviation, subtly weaving the change into the fabric of history. But Cyrus couldn't shake the feeling that something was still amiss. The loop hadn't entirely broken free; instead, it had transformed into a more complex pattern of temporal adjustments. The repair mechanism was still at work, now compensating for the introduced change rather than outright rejecting it. Frustration gnawed at him. "We made progress, but it's not enough. The loop persists, albeit in a different form." Amelia, ever the optimist, urged him to keep pushing. "Each alteration creates new possibilities. We just need to find the right balance, the point where the change is significant enough to break free but subtle enough to avoid triggering a full reset." Cyrus nodded, determined to continue their efforts. They delved deeper into the intricacies of the temporal loops, experimenting with different events and interactions. Each attempt brought them closer to understanding the repair mechanism's limitations and strengths. One day, Amelia presented a new theory. What if the repair mechanism is designed to maintain not just the overall timeline but also the equilibrium of free will and determinism? Perhaps it's preventing any changes that could tip the balance too far in either direction. Cyrus considered her words. So, it's not just about preserving history, but also about maintaining a balance between predetermined events and individual choices. Exactly, Amelia replied. Free will within a certain framework. If your alterations disrupt that balance, the repair mechanism steps in to correct it. This revelation added a new layer to their quest. It wasn't merely about changing events but understanding the delicate interplay between individual actions and the broader temporal landscape. To break free, they needed to find a way to assert free will without disrupting the established equilibrium. They decided to focus on a more significant event, one that had far-reaching implications yet allowed for controlled alterations. After extensive research, they identified a pivotal moment in the early 21st century, a decision made by a key political figure that had shaped the course of global events. Cyrus prepared for the jump, knowing that this mission carried higher stakes. Amelia assisted in calibrating his time chamber, ensuring that every parameter was meticulously set to minimize unintended consequences. As the temporal sequence commenced, Cyrus felt the familiar disorientation, the sensation of being pulled through the fabric of time. Moments later, he stood in the bustling offices of a prominent think tank in Washington, D.C., the date aligning with the targeted event. The room was filled with influential figures, engrossed in heated discussions about international policies. Cyrus identified the key political figure, a man named Jonathan Hartley, deep in conversation with his advisors. This meeting had historically led to significant policy changes that shaped global dynamics. Cyrus approached cautiously, blending into the background as he observed the interaction. His goal was to introduce a subtle shift in Hartley's perspective, encouraging a different course of action without overt interference. As the meeting progressed, Cyrus interjected with a well-timed suggestion. Have we considered the long-term implications of this policy on emerging markets? It might be beneficial to reassess our approach to ensure sustainable growth. Hartley paused, contemplating the input. That's a valid point. Perhaps we should conduct a more comprehensive analysis before finalizing our decision. The meeting concluded with a slight shift in the proposed policy, reflecting Cyrus's influence. He felt a surge of hope, believing that this alteration might be the key to breaking free from the loop. Initiating the return sequence, he braced himself for the transition back to his original timeline. As the temporal shift occurred, Cyrus found himself back in his time chamber, the date now fluctuating between March and April 2127. He checked his logs, noticing significant changes in the historical records. The policy decision had been altered, leading to a cascade of events that reshaped global relations and technological advancements. For the first time, the repair mechanism did not respond with a reset. Cyrus felt a sense of liberation, realizing that their efforts had finally paid off. The loop was broken, and the timeline had moved forward with the introduced changes, yet, as he acclimated to the new timeline, Cyrus noticed something unsettling. The world around him had changed in unexpected ways. While the policy alteration had prevented the loop, it had also set off a chain of events that had unintended consequences. Technological advancements had accelerated, societal norms had shifted, and the very fabric of reality seemed subtly altered. He reached out to Amelia, who had been monitoring the changes from her laboratory. "It's done. The loop is broken." Amelia's voice crackled through the calm link, tinged with excitement. "You did it, Cyrus. The timeline is stable, and the resets have ceased." But Cyrus couldn't shake the feeling that something was still wrong. "Amelia, look at the changes. They're not just limited to the event we altered. The entire timeline feels different." Amelia reviewed the data, her expression growing serious. "It seems that while we broke the loop, the alterations we introduced had far-reaching effects. The repair mechanism adjusted to accommodate the changes, but in doing so, it created a new equilibrium, a different timeline with its own set of challenges." Cyrus sighed, realizing the complexity of their actions. "So, while we achieved our goal, we also unleashed a new set of variables. The timeline remains intact, but it's now fundamentally different." Amelia nodded thoughtfully. "Time is a vast and intricate system. Every action, every change, creates ripples that propagate through the fabric of reality. Our interventions have consequences, both intended and unforeseen." Cyrus pondered her words, the weight of responsibility settling upon him. "What do we do now? How do we navigate this altered timeline?" Amelia offered a reassuring smile. "We adapt. Time is resilient, and so are we. We've gained invaluable insights into the mechanics of temporal loops and repair mechanisms. We can use this knowledge to better understand and perhaps even guide the timeline in more controlled ways." As they continued to analyze the new timeline, Cyrus realized that their journey was far from over. Breaking free from the loop had opened a Pandora's box of temporal complexities, each new discovery leading to more questions. But amidst the uncertainty, there was a sense of accomplishment, a testament to their perseverance and ingenuity. Cyrus looked out of his window, observing the bustling city below. Paris remained a constant in his travels, a symbol of both stability and change. He took a deep breath, embracing the ever-evolving nature of time. "What's next?" he mused aloud. Amelia's voice carried through the calm link, filled with determination. "We continue to explore, to understand, and to respect the delicate balance of time. There's still so much to learn, and who knows what adventures await us in the vast expanse of the temporal landscape." Cyrus smiled, feeling a renewed sense of purpose. "All right then. Let's see where time takes us next." As the sun set over Paris, casting long shadows across the city, Cyrus Caldwell prepared for his next temporal adventure, ready to face the challenges and mysteries that lay ahead. The endless reboot had been conquered, but the journey through time was just beginning. Cyrus Caldwell gazed out of his window, the Parisian skyline stretching endlessly before him. The city, a tapestry of history and modernity, seemed both familiar and alien in the altered timeline. The subtle changes they had introduced had woven a new pattern into the fabric of reality, one that resonated with both possibility and uncertainty. Amelia's voice crackled through the calm link, pulling him from his thoughts. "We've mapped out the primary shifts caused by the policy alteration," Amelia reported, her tone a blend of excitement and concern. "The accelerated technological advancements have led to innovations we hadn't anticipated, but they've also introduced new societal challenges." Cyrus nodded, although Amelia couldn't see him. "What's our next move?" Amelia hesitated for a moment before responding. "We need to monitor the ripple effects of our changes more closely. The timeline is adapting, and we need to ensure that our interventions don't cause further unintended consequences." He took a deep breath, the weight of their actions pressing down on him. "Do you think the repair mechanism is still active, just in a more adaptive form?" "It's possible," Amelia mused. "The universe tends to find equilibrium, even in the face of significant alterations. We might need to find a way to work harmoniously within this new framework rather than trying to force changes upon it." Cyrus leaned back in his chair, contemplating her words. The notion of working with the timeline's natural tendencies, rather than against them, resonated deeply. It was a shift from his usual approach, one that required patience and subtlety. "Maybe we need to focus on understanding the new dynamics at play," he suggested. "Instead of trying to break free, we adapt and find our place within the altered timeline." Amelia considered this. That could be a viable strategy. By immersing ourselves in the new reality, we might uncover opportunities to influence events in a way that aligns with the timeline's natural flow. With renewed determination, Cyrus and Amelia delved into their research, meticulously analyzing the changes that had unfolded since their last intervention. They discovered that the policy alteration had not only influenced political dynamics but had also spurred advancements in artificial intelligence, renewable energy, and medical technology. These innovations had transformed society, creating both utopian advancements and dystopian challenges. One particular development caught Cyrus's attention: the emergence of a global initiative aimed at harnessing temporal energy. The project, spearheaded by a coalition of scientists and governments, sought to tap into the very fabric of time to generate limitless clean energy. While the concept held immense promise, Cyrus couldn't help but feel a sense of déjà vu. The project mirrored the very principles that had led to his entrapment in the time loop. He shared his concerns with Amelia. "This temporal energy project, it's eerily similar to the technology we used for time travel. If history is set on a particular path, perhaps this development was inevitable." Amelia frowned, her mind racing. "If that's the case, it might explain why the repair mechanism has adapted to our alterations. The timeline recognizes certain key events as essential to its integrity." Cyrus nodded thoughtfully. "So, instead of trying to prevent or alter these pivotal moments, we should focus on understanding their significance and how they contribute to the overall stability of the timeline." Their collaboration deepened, blending Cyrus's first-hand temporal experiences with Amelia's theoretical expertise. Together, they mapped out the interconnected web of events, identifying key nodes that acted as anchors for the timeline's stability. These anchors were moments that, if altered, would trigger significant disruptions, prompting the repair mechanism to intervene. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden hue over Paris, Amelia made a startling discovery. "Cyrus, look at this," she called out, pointing to a series of overlapping timelines displayed on her holographic interface. "There's a recurring pattern, an underlying symmetry that suggests the timeline is not just a linear progression but a complex, multidimensional structure." Cyrus approached, studying the intricate web of temporal threads. "What does this mean?" "It means that the timeline is interconnected on multiple levels," Amelia explained. "Changes in one dimension can influence events across different layers, creating a dynamic balance that maintains the overall integrity of history." Cyrus pondered the implications. "So, our interventions are like ripples in a pond, affecting not just the surface but the very depths of the timeline." Exactly, Amelia affirmed. Understanding this multidimensional structure is key to navigating and influencing the timeline effectively. With this newfound insight, Cyrus and Amelia refined their approach. They began targeting specific events within the multidimensional framework, aiming to introduce changes that would harmonize with the timeline's inherent balance rather than disrupt it. Their goal was not to break free from the loop but to become active participants in the timeline's evolution, guiding it towards a more favorable outcome. Their first attempt was to influence the development of artificial intelligence. Recognizing the potential benefits and risks, they carefully introduced subtle advancements that would lead to ethical AI practices being prioritized. By fostering collaboration between technologists and ethicists, they ensured that AI development remained aligned with humanity's best interests. The results were promising. The AI systems that emerged were not only powerful but also deeply integrated with societal values, promoting fairness, transparency, and accountability. This harmonious integration alleviated many of the dystopian fears associated with unchecked technological advancement, fostering a more optimistic future. Encouraged by their success, Cyrus and Amelia continued their endeavors, focusing on areas where they could make meaningful contributions without destabilizing the timeline. They supported advancements in renewable energy, ensuring that sustainable practices became the norm rather than the exception. They also played a role in medical breakthroughs, facilitating research that led to cures for previously incurable diseases. As they navigated the complexities of the altered timeline, Cyrus began to experience a profound sense of purpose. No longer trapped in an endless loop, he felt empowered to shape the future in meaningful ways. The partnership between him and Amelia grew stronger, their combined knowledge and expertise enabling them to tackle challenges that once seemed insurmountable. However, their actions did not go unnoticed. Subtle shifts in the timeline began to attract attention from entities that monitored temporal anomalies. Cyrus and Amelia became aware of a shadowy organization known as the Temporal Guardians, a group dedicated to preserving the integrity of the timeline by any means necessary. Their presence posed a new threat, as the Guardians viewed any unauthorized interventions as potential threats to the timeline's stability. One evening, as Cyrus and Amelia worked late in the laboratory, their comm link crackled with an urgent message. "Cyrus, we have a problem," Amelia reported, her voice tense. "The Temporal Guardians are aware of our activities. They're increasing their surveillance and taking steps to counteract our interventions." Cyrus felt a surge of adrenaline. "What can we do?" "We need to be more strategic," Amelia replied. "They have resources and authority that we don't. We'll need to outmaneuver them by staying one step ahead and ensuring that our actions remain within the timeline's acceptable parameters." He nodded, determination hardening his resolve. "We'll find a way to coexist. Our intentions are aligned with the greater good." Amelia agreed. "Yes, but we must proceed with caution. The Guardians won't hesitate to neutralize any perceived threats to the timeline." Their predicament forced them to rethink their strategies. They became more selective in their interventions, focusing on areas where they could make the most significant positive impact without drawing undue attention. They also developed advanced temporal cloaking techniques, allowing them to operate under the radar of the Temporal Guardians. Despite the increased risks, Cyrus and Amelia continued their work, driven by the belief that they could guide the timeline towards a better future. Their efforts began to bear fruit, with society reaping the benefits of their subtle interventions. The advancements in technology, energy, and medicine led to a period of unprecedented prosperity and stability, fostering a global community that thrived on cooperation and innovation. Yet, the presence of the Temporal Guardians loomed as a constant reminder of the delicate balance they were navigating. The Guardians remained elusive, their actions shrouded in secrecy, but their influence was unmistakable. Cyrus and Amelia realized that maintaining their autonomy required not only ingenuity but also a deep understanding of the timeline's intricate dynamics. One fateful night, as they reviewed the latest developments, Amelia's comm link beeped with an incoming transmission. "Cyrus, you need to see this," she said urgently. He followed her to the main console, where a holographic projection of the timeline displayed a sudden, dramatic shift. A critical event, a peace treaty between two historically warring nations, was in jeopardy. The treaty, a cornerstone of global stability, was at risk of collapse due to unforeseen political tensions. This could trigger a major disruption, Cyrus noted, his brow furrowing. If the treaty falls apart, it could set off a chain reaction leading to renewed conflicts and instability. Amelia's eyes were fixed on the projection. We need to intervene, but we have to do it carefully. The temporal guardians will be watching. Cyrus took a deep breath, steeling himself for the challenge ahead. Let's do it. They devised a plan to subtly influence the key negotiators, fostering mutual understanding and cooperation to ensure the treaty's success. Utilizing their knowledge of historical events, they provided strategic insights and facilitated dialogues that addressed underlying tensions. Their interventions were invisible, leaving no trace of their involvement. As the negotiations progressed, the atmosphere shifted. What was once a tense and adversarial dialogue became a collaborative effort towards peace. The treaty was signed successfully, securing a lasting peace between the nations and reinforcing global stability. Cyrus and Amelia watched the timeline stabilize, relief washing over them. We did it, Cyrus whispered, a rare smile gracing his features. Amelia nodded, her expression one of cautious optimism. Yes, but we must remain vigilant. The temporal guardians will undoubtedly intensify their efforts to monitor and control the timeline. Cyrus agreed. We need to continue adapting, finding new ways to navigate the complexities of the timeline while staying true to our mission. Their success bolstered their confidence, reinforcing their belief in the possibility of harmonious coexistence with the timeline's natural flow. They continued their work with renewed vigor, embracing the challenges that came their way and finding innovative solutions to guide the timeline towards a brighter future. Months passed, and their influence on the timeline became more pronounced. The world experienced advancements that transcended their wildest imaginations: space exploration initiatives, breakthroughs in quantum computing, and unprecedented strides in environmental conservation. Society flourished, buoyed by the positive changes that Cyrus and Amelia had helped usher in, yet, amidst the progress, the threat of the temporal guardians remained ever present. Their actions, though subtle, were met with increasing resistance and opposition. Cyrus and Amelia realized that their journey was far from over, that the delicate dance between intervention and preservation was an ongoing battle fraught with challenges. One evening, as they reviewed the latest developments, Amelia turned to Cyrus with a solemn expression. We've made significant progress, but the Guardians are becoming more aggressive. They're deploying advanced detection systems to identify and counteract our interventions. Cyrus frowned, concern etched on his face. What can we do to stay ahead? Amelia pondered for a moment before responding. We need to enhance our temporal cloaking and develop countermeasures to evade their detection. Additionally, we should consider expanding our network, collaborating with like-minded individuals who can assist us in maintaining the timeline stability. Cyrus nodded thoughtfully. Building a coalition could help us distribute the workload and increase our chances of success. But we need to be cautious about who we trust. Amelia agreed. Absolutely. We must vet potential allies carefully to ensure they share our commitment to preserving the timeline without disrupting its integrity. Their discussions led to the formation of a clandestine group dedicated to safeguarding the timeline, operating in the shadows to counteract the Guardians' influence. This new alliance brought together individuals with diverse skills and expertise, each contributing to the collective effort to maintain temporal stability. As the alliance grew, so did their ability to navigate the complexities of the timeline. They developed sophisticated tools and technologies that allowed them to monitor and influence events with greater precision, minimizing the risk of detection by the temporal guardians. Their coordinated efforts led to a period of sustained progress and stability, fostering a sense of hope and resilience within the global community. However, the Guardians were relentless. Their countermeasures became more sophisticated, and their attempts to thwart the Alliance's interventions intensified. Cyrus and Amelia found themselves in a perpetual game of cat and mouse, each side striving to outmaneuver the other in the intricate dance of time. One particularly challenging mission tested the Alliance's resolve. A significant scientific breakthrough was on the verge of being discovered, one that could revolutionize energy production but also posed significant risks if misused. The Guardians sought to control the discovery, fearing its potential to disrupt the timeline if it fell into the wrong hands. Cyrus and Amelia led a team to ensure that the breakthrough occurred under the right circumstances, promoting ethical use and preventing its exploitation. The mission required precise timing and coordination, as any misstep could trigger the Guardians' intervention or cause unintended disruptions to the timeline. As the team worked diligently, tensions ran high. The stakes were immense, and the pressure to succeed was palpable. Yet, their unwavering commitment to their mission propelled them forward, driving them to overcome obstacles and navigate the intricacies of the temporal landscape with skill and determination. In the end, their efforts paid off. The scientific breakthrough was achieved under controlled conditions, its benefits harnessed for the greater good. The Guardians, unable to prevent the discovery, were forced to acknowledge the Alliance's influence and resilience. While their opposition remained, the balance of power began to shift, allowing Cyrus and Amelia's group to operate with greater autonomy and effectiveness. With each successful mission, the Alliance solidified its role as a guardian of the timeline, working in tandem with the universe's natural repair mechanisms to guide history towards a harmonious and prosperous future. Cyrus and Amelia's partnership deepened, their combined strengths forging a formidable force in the ongoing battle to preserve temporal stability. As the years passed, the timeline continued to evolve, shaped by the subtle yet impactful interventions of the Alliance. Society thrived, propelled by advancements in technology, medicine, and environmental stewardship. The world became a testament to the power of collaboration and the enduring human spirit, navigating the delicate balance between progress and preservation with grace and wisdom. Cyrus Caldwell, once trapped in an endless reboot, had become a pivotal figure in the grand tapestry of time. His journey from frustration and entrapment to empowerment and purpose was a testament to the resilience of the human spirit and the profound impact of mindful intervention. Alongside Amelia Duval, he had not only broken free from the constraints of the loop but had also forged a new path towards a brighter, more harmonious future. As he stood on the balcony of his Parisian apartment, watching the city shimmer under the twilight sky, Cyrus felt a deep sense of fulfillment. The endless reboot had transformed into an endless journey, one filled with challenges, discoveries, and the unwavering pursuit of a better tomorrow. With Amelia by his side and the Alliance supporting their mission, he was ready to face whatever the timeline had in store, confident in their ability to navigate the intricate dance of time and shape the destiny of humanity for generations to come. The end.